Okay, so we'll go back to seer and the seen. We'll open that sloka. The form is perceived and the I is its perceiver, the physical I. The physical I is perceived and the mind is its perceiver. The mind and its modification is perceived and the witness is its perceiver. The witness is not perceived by any other. So if we break it apart, first of all we can see that the perceived and the perceiver are distinct. Yes? Distinct.
Separate.
Yes, separate. The form is perceived and the I, the physical I, is its perceiver. So the physical I is totally distinct or separate than the perceived form, object. Yes? We can see a hierarchy that the physical I can perceive the form cannot perceive the physical I. That means from external, internal, the external cannot perceive the internal. From the internal can perceive the external. Yes? So we can see it's in a way it's one direction.
The external cannot see the internal.
Yes.
But yet when we use words like let's go internal, let's move inward. So we're moving from the out to the in.
It's withdrawing energy. It's literally withdraw the energy inward. And it points another thing. Let's go for a moment in the hierarchy. The form is perceived and the physical I is the perceiver. The physical I is perceived and the mind is its perceiver. The mind and its modification is perceived and the witness is its perceiver. The witness is not perceived by any other. That means everyone watches from the witness everything it sees. That means from the witness point of view there is no veiling. No veiling. Like if I put here something, I'm seeing it. Yet if I think that I'm here and I'm trying to look backwards, I can't see it. Yet backwards I cannot see anyhow, because the form cannot perceive the physical eye, the physical eye cannot perceive the mind and its modification, and the mind and its modification cannot perceive the witness. The witness perceives the mind and its modification. The mind and its modification perceive the physical eye, and the physical eye perceive the form. Yes?
Yes.
So we can see few things. First, that there is a direction. That it's always from the witness out. Energy is flowing out. Yes? Another thing that we see is that the one perceives the many does not perceive the one. The form is perceived by the physical eye. So the physical eye is one, it can perceive many forms. Not that it can perceive many forms, it can recognize many colors in the forms. Yet it remains one. It doesn't change because it sees different colors. Yes? So the one remains unaffected by the many, and the many cannot affect the one. Right? If there are many forms, it doesn't affect the physical eye. If there's one form, it doesn't affect the physical eye. Yet the physical eye can see many forms, can see one form, can see many shapes, many colors, or one color, one shape, yet it remains one single physical eye. Just for the analogy. Obviously that the physical eye undergoes change, yet basically what in the seer and the seen Shankaracharya was leading from the first sloka, look, ultimately the witness is changeless, and it is the only one that sees the many. Yes? He's leading.
You say it's the only one that sees the many.
Yes.
But yet the eye sees many.
Right. So it's just leading that it's the one sees the many, yet that one is perceived by another unity, which is the mind.
Right.
That mind is one,
But it sees many.
and it now sees the change in the physical eye. If the eyes get blind, the mind perceives it. If the eyesight is clear, the mind perceives it. So the changes in the sense of sight or the five senses is perceived because it undergoes change. The mind, which is a unity, is unaffected by the change of the senses.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the physical eye was not affected by the form. Yes? The physical eye now is can undergo change, and the mind, which is a unity, is not affected by the physical eye. Right? So far,
Well, I'm trying to think about that.
if I'm blind, the mind is not affected by it.
Yeah, it is, and it's not affected, but it no longer has. It is affected because what it did see before, it cannot see again.
All that it saw was impression that coming through the sense of sight.
Yeah.
So that impression is no longer there. It's not affecting really the mind because the mind is subtle, and what was affected was the sense, which was the sense organ itself. We separate the sense organs, the physical body, and the mind, which is subtle. The sense organ is more gross, more dense, yes? Right. Objective. The mind is not objective, it is subjective. So if we will define object and subject, object is an object that can be perceived by one of the five senses. Yes? Subject is a thought that cannot be perceived by the five senses.
A thought, right. Cannot.
We cannot perceive through our five senses a thought. Yeah? If it is written, it's already gross. It's an object. If it is spoken, it's already an object because it travels in the air and it is perceived through our sense of hearing. So that's an object. So we can see that subject is a thought which cannot be perceived, or subtle, cannot be perceived by the five senses. An object can be perceived by the five senses. Mm-hmm. Object can never affect the subject.
So what you're saying is the gross can never perceive the subtle.
That's right. And can never affect the subtle.
Yeah.
The form doesn't really affect the eye. Mm-hmm. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
The eye does not affect the mind.
Right.
Because there is the notion that the mind is a physical body, so it reacts mentally to the idea it has about the body.
So the mind
believes that it is a physical body, so it reacts to the idea that it is reacting to ideas. The mind is just reacting to ideas. It never reacts to objects.
Shelley's reacting to the idea that he can't see. He's not reacting to his eyes.
If he would be born with no idea that he has the capability to see, he would have no problem, because he wouldn't know that it can be different. Yet the moment he has the idea that he is supposed to see and he cannot see, he's reacting to this idea that it should be different than what it is.
Yeah, that he is reacting.
So he's reacting to an idea, not to the circumstances.
But the idea is, then you're saying the idea is implanted in a person.
Yeah.
By another person.
A belief.
By thought.
It's always external.
By somebody else's thought, not their thought.
Usually all beliefs are external, borrowed
Yeah, borrow.
from the outside.
Mostly or
All of it.
all of them? Okay. So the mind, for some reason, then believes it is a body.
Yeah. This is the false identification.
So if if you were born in the jungle or left in the jungle at a little age, you wouldn't think that that the mind and body are one?
No, you still would be with the belief, because if you were born, that means you already had the false identity
Already there.
already there. Otherwise, you would not be born again.
So that's already implanted,
Built in.
built into the system.
That's why so one is born to undo the false identification and remain ever free. That's why, yes?
Yes, God.
That's
So if we go back, one essential aspect is to recognize, and that's where it's confusing, is that there is the belief that the object is affecting the mind.
yeah. It's considered that even in psychology.
Yeah. Except what's affecting the mind,
Is
thoughts
thoughts.
only.
And okay, we covered that before. Talked about it before, and I'm a little not clear about thought and mind being separate.
Same. When there's no thought, there's no mind. Mind is a bundle of thoughts.
Mind is a bundle of thought. So
No thought, no mind.
Okay, so when we say thought, we're considering the mind. When we say mind, we're considering thought.
Thoughts. Yeah.
Okay. So a thought didn't come before the mind. They're actually one of the same.
The first thought is the I, and that's where the mind begins.
And that thought is the mind.
Yes.
So the
Except
first thought
is mind.
is mind, but there's already mind, because you can't have a thought without a mind.
It's
You understand what I'm saying?
no.
If the first
The thought is mind.
Mind.
Don't think in terms of before and after. The fact that there is a thought, there is mind. If there's no thought, there's no mind.
Okay, yeah, okay. It's just the
Is
way
that
it's
right?
said.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not one comes to the other, they're the same.
When a thought appears, mind begins.
Mm.
Time and space begins
Mm.
simultaneously.
Mm.
So now you
So-
want like there's a distinction between them, but there's not.
Yeah,
The distinction is that there can be one thought, and when there's a movement of thoughts or a projection, then we can say it's mind. It's just a sequence of one thought after another, like a movie. So we can say one picture is not a movie. Yet if you take one picture, frame after frame after frame, and it starts to move, it's a movie.
But even the thought I is mine. No?
Yes,
Only the thought I.
But it's
Yes.
a thought.
It's a single thought.
right.
It's still mine.
Yes,
So it's the same.
that's right. Except we break it apart. So mind is a bundle of thought, and when there's no thought, there's no mind. I didn't made it up. You can look. Ramana is talking about it. The sages pointed. I'm just using the same language that is accurate.
You're believing it.
No, I see it from within.
Okay. I would say, the first thing the mind does is say I. And that I, you could call it a thought.
It doesn't
But you're
even
not telling
say
me
I.
what a thought is. What is the substance of a thought?
A thought is a name.
A thought is an energy, isn't it? Just energy?
Yeah, we can say that every thought is a vibration.
It's a vibration, and vibrations are energy, right? Or
Yes.
in a sense, so we can say, okay, then the mind and thought it's just energy, but They're taking a certain form in order to be in order to do what it does. It's a functional unit of a human being or an animal. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
It's a functional unit of the totality of, we'll say, human, of a person. It is with.
Except a thought is not a person.
But it's not a person, but a person who doesn't have a thought, we don't consider a person. So
Actually, when the thought arises, the whole world begins. So there's not even a saying of I. When the I thought arises, the whole universe begins, and then the I is reduced to be a physical body, apparently, and then I as a physical body appear to be inside the world. When the thought arises, it happens so quickly, the whole universe is created instantaneously. It's one I.
For that unit or that person or that thing, that is true. The whole universe opens up. But before that, the universe still exists.
For who?
Because of the five senses are witnessing it, even before one says I, or mine, or me. It exists, but you have no association with it, except that you see it exists. You hear it, but there is no development of the brain yet at that moment that says I. I mean, I'm attempting to break this down so I could really see how it is, how they put it together in a sense. Because to me, a mind is, if it's not a gross object, it's a subtle object, it's an energy that is circulating in a certain way in order for it to function. It's energy or a vibration. So vibration has to be at a certain frequency for it to be known. Otherwise, it's just energy floating around all over the universe.
Okay. The thing is that energy is more gross than thoughts.
Energy
is more gross than thoughts.
Well,
If
we can't see energy, we can witness it, we can experience it, but we can't see it.
Can't see thoughts either.
We see thoughts.
Oh, all right.
Everyone sees the thoughts
So
because
that
you're
you
the
can't see
witness,
the
you're not the thinker. You're not the thoughts. And
Thoughts
the thoughts is perceived is
thoughts don't see themselves.
thoughts perceive energy. Perceive energy. You sense energy. If you take your hands right now and you hold them close together and you just keep holding them for a moment, and you might feel heat, or if you circle it like this.
Well, that's the energy coming off the body.
Okay, that's energy.
Yeah, but that is what the body is. It functions through energy. Without energy, it cannot make movement. It can't move.
So it perceives through the mind.
It creates.
It's perceived through the touch, through the hands.
Yes, which is just like the eyes.
Right.
Because the energy is just like a form.
So that
Perceived
is sight
through-
also.
It's like sight. The form is perceived and the eye is its perceiver. The energy is perceived and the sense of touch is its perceiver. The sense of touch is perceived and the mind is its perceiver.
I still have a hard
This
time.
is why energy is the second covering. Prana covering. Look, there's 5 koshas. 5 coverings. Body covering is the first one, the most dense one. Prana covering is the second one. Ego covering is the third one. Intellect covering is the fourth one. Bliss covering is the fifth one. And beyond these 5 koshas covering, awareness, the source.
But the prana is the energy.
Yes, second.
Bliss is a covering, like a veil.
Bliss is the most finest veil because it's an inferior bliss, it's not supreme bliss of the self.
Oh, okay.
Why, and you might as well go, why is it inferior?
Because it's not the real self.
From experience. Only one can experience that, right?
Even any experience that one experiences, it is witnessed by you.
Yeah. So if you witness bliss, it's inferior.
Anything that is witnessed
Is inferior.
it implies it's not you.
So therefore,
Isn't it?
Yes.
So therefore,
Anything, if we
yeah.
go back, look, the way he brought the first sloka enables one to really discern, right? Discriminate. So there won't be any landing. This is it. This is it. This is it. If you remember, one of Sheshadri, one of the sages in Tiruvannamalai who recognized Ramana, he said, keep giving up until there's nothing to give up. What remains is the self. So if you think you got it, that's just an idea. And if it is seen, it has to be discarded as well.
So therefore, when you go back to awareness, to the source or what, there is no bliss because you can't experience it.
There can be a bliss,
How?
except
You
that
can't
bliss is still witnessed by yourself.
You're witnessing yourself and calling that bliss. Doesn't make, that's getting a little,
So let's stay on track
Yeah.
and not jump. So everything will unfold and be clarified. So if we go back to gross and subtle, I think this is more essential first, before we go to bliss, is to see this is easily overlooked. And I think this is half liberation. If one understands this, if I understand that the objective world does not affect the mind, already half I eliminated, right?
yes.
Because the majority believe that the external world is affecting them
Yes.
as an individual. Means them, it's their mind,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
This has to be very clearly seen over and over again, because otherwise I blame.
Yeah.
You are affecting me, what you told me is affecting me, the way you behave is affecting me, how I get something in the leg, that's affecting me. If I don't eat, it's affecting me. If I'm not sleeping, it's affecting me. If I have money, it's affecting me. I don't have money, which is not true. The only thing that is affecting the me is the ideas this me has, the beliefs this me has. That means,
The thoughts.
yes, that means there is an aquarium. And in this aquarium is their mind. And it's the mind reacting to other beliefs it has. That's it. Means nobody can ever affect, I would say, my mind except the mind itself. If I understand it and I see it over and over again, I have to see it because there's forgetfulness. Something happens and I like, ooh, I'm affected by that situation. Not true. It's like, that means that brings one to take full responsibility of what's going on. It's only in their minds. Nobody outside can affect them. Yeah? That means I can focus the attention on the cause that is affecting the mind instead of believing that something external affecting the mind. And that is very essential, because if we talked about veiling and projection, I'll open it live so one can understand it. The veiling works in such a way, it's like makes things appear other than what they are, yes? So on the source, the I thought makes the real I, which is not a thought, appears to undergo change when the real I never changes, yes? And in the Seer and the Sin, we can open that even more because there's mutual superimposition. In the next slokas, he's going to touch that. Except the veiling works also from external. The moment it veils the source, all the way down, it starts to veil. So we have a hierarchy: witness, mind, senses, objects, right?
Yes.
This is the chain, that's it. There's nothing more. People can say more and more and more. No, there is nothing. Witness, thoughts, senses, objects. In the thoughts we have many dimensions. There are worlds in the thoughts, okay? Because it's subtle and it's Maya, she can create anything except the source, so she creates infinite worlds, she creates infinite variations, she creates in the whole realm of the mind.
Are those worlds already been experienced? That's why it's in the mind from other lifetimes.
Can be.
Is that usual?
It depends on how ancient the spirit is. The Geva.
Is there such a thing as a
Young Geva and old Geva.
There is?
Yes, some people you probably encountered that you recognize that their Jiva is really young. They are more interested in the objects of the world, everything fascinates them, and other Jivas are tired from the objects of the world. They've seen so much, they are not nothing gets them excited so much. You've seen that?
Yeah, sure.
I've seen some people who think that all what we're talking about it's ridiculous. What are you going on about?
Because their Jiva is young. They are still infatuated by exploring the objects of the world.
How's it possible that their jivas are young? How's that possible that it just isn't? Everything just is. And there's no new and there's no old. It just is. Maybe we're talking about a personality, a nature of the beast.
Look at lemons.
Okay.
Lemon tree. One lemon tree.
Okay.
All lemons are ripened at the same time.
No. Close, but not.
They are all starting, no lemons.
Right.
The trees, and then there's flowers, and then each lemon start to grow at different time. Still one lemon tree. And then some lemons bigger, smaller, some ripen, some really ripen fall, others are not. Some just begin. This is the whole that's a creation.
So this is creation.
So the Jivas is the same.
The Jivas, this is the lemon tree.
Yeah, analogy, that's the easiest. We can observe nature and understand a lot. We're back to realize what we can see right now from the point of view that we are at. Means it doesn't really matter, because all it does is that if you can go back and first have realizations or just listen from the presence of awareness.
It doesn't matter that it takes forever to actually comprehend it.
You don't need to, you already know all of it. This is what the notion that I have to study or learn it is a misconception. This knowledge or knowing is within everyone. So all that it does, hearing the knowledge over and over, removes the ignorance. Ignorance, it means ignoring the self. So by listening, and we're sitting like this, and the more we sit for hours, we actually being still, slow down, and all the attention is now shifted to the subtle. The subtle permeates the gross, so it moves all the objective thoughts. That's the prescription. We start, and then the mind gets more subtle, then awareness can shine through, and then awareness is you. So you start to radiate, you start to radiate, you start to radiate as yourself. Instead of trying to sit in meditation and people fall asleep, and this is very gentle. This is how they did it for thousands of years. Hearing the knowledge over and over and over again. Hearing the knowledge removes ignorance. Reflecting upon the knowledge removes doubt. One-pointedness removes the misidentification with the body and the mind. So it all builds concentration. It all shifts the attention. You ask, what is the prescription? That was the beginning of the prescription all along the way.
Yeah, they didn't change the prescription.
Even Ramana, there would be times they would sit in silence, and there are times he would share. He would share words. He would read from the sutras, or he would read from Ribugita. He would open the scriptures, so the mind would start to have more subjective thoughts, more subtle, because the knowledge is sattvic mind. So the sattvic mind permeates the veiling and the projection. So it very gently removes the false misidentification.
We're slowly turning around.
Yeah. If there is an interest, if there is without, it's more passive.
It is gentle.
And there is an inner light, and there is more understanding. Yet all the understandings fall away anyhow.
Yeah. So the questions are useless.
No, not.
The questions. We have the book here. No. Wushin says that he starts, every question is for the individual to understand. And therefore, he says the questions are useless. And then he says, so let's begin, you ask your questions. Because it's to remove all doubts.
Yes, that's what it is.
In all doubts is removed, and doubts can surface from different layers, even if you're by yourself. So they are removed, and asking the question awakens for you to question.
What if you question, but you really don't have any question? Do you understand the statement? And that's the way I'm trying to put it, in a sense, because if you experience something, you experience it. So you don't no longer doubt that experience that you've had, and so forth. But with the asking the questions from this experience that this is having, in a sense, I feel it's moving me. By this experience, I'm moving again. I seem to have been stagnant.
Retrogressing.
You know, I've gotten to understand and experience something that has put me into, I've graduated.
Yeah.
I graduated.
The word is,
I'm looking for the word.
yeah, stagnation sets in.
Yeah.
And this is keep one moving.
Mm.
And who is moving is the mind moving back to you.
Yeah.
Back to you. And then it's the knowledge, because it's sattvic and it's subtle, it's an inner light. It's an inner light that rearranges everything. It illuminates. It's illumination. And again, if we go back, just for example, what Shankaracharya said, very boldly, and many sages said it after in different ways. Just as fire is the cause of cooking, so knowledge, and not any other means, is the cause of liberation. Self-knowledge. So some wise says there is time to talk and there is time to be silent. And what happens, so it's a matter on the level of the mind and its ripeness. Sometimes the mind wants to be silent. And what I find is when the mind wants to be silent at times, it's because it wants to hide, not to be seen. So people want to sit silent more and more, yet they are actually dreaming and lost in the maze of imagination. And when the knowledge comes in, it illuminates, so suddenly the mind can be seen. Yeah? Because we can say it's all stories, and suddenly we open and we see, wow, projection. And let's see how the veiling and projection plays itself. Even if you don't have to remember it, when you hear it, it removes some ignorance that suddenly you would see it when it plays itself out. The discrimination would be much more sharp. There would be much more vigilant, much more alertness, not because you're doing it, because that's the outcome of illumination and inner illumination. Like it awakens a higher intelligence within, so it can be seen. The lower mind can be seen. The lower mind can be discriminated. Yes? So
you're constantly challenging yourself, your mind. The mind is constantly in challenge in itself.
Yeah, it's undoing itself.
It's undoing
like that.
itself.
Yeah.
A healthy mind is constantly doing that.
Yeah, that's why you can see the beings are very sharp.
Are very sharp.
Sharp. Very sharp because they see very clearly.
That's what we saw at that meditation in Malaysia, those high up monks, and when they were talking, the clarity was just amazing. I don't know who they were or what state they were in, but it was quite extraordinary to see how clear they were.
So clarity is a sattvic mind. In a sattvic mind, there's no false identification, because the false identification lies in the veiling and the projection.
Does the I still survive? Is the I still present?
Which I?
The small I.
The I,
until it...
actually, there's only you as I. The small I is a phantom.
Is a phantom.
What
created
is
by the mind.
Is same.
Same.
What is a phantom?
The illusion.
Means
it doesn't exist. It's a false creation.
There's a difference between appearance and existence.
Yes. Existence is subtle, appearance is gross.
Okay. What appears doesn't exist. What exists doesn't appear.
Existence does.
Appearance doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So when a mirage and appears there is water, there is no water. So appearance doesn't exist. Existence doesn't appear, it always exists. It is the substratum. So that answers the question.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
the notion to try to get rid of the ego validates that there is a real ego, when the truth is the only reality is you. It's who you are.
And that's got to be constantly witnessed in this life, like we're living now, even, in a sense. It's got to be constantly witnessed. And that's what you repeat. That's why you do it over and over again. Till completion, let's say. Until there's no more doubt, no more questions. Because that's what knowledge is. That not what knowledge does. It destroys the question.
That's because we have the notion that there is a future. That's why I listened to that it's constant. There is nothing. Constant means it's in time, isn't it?
Yes.
Yet this is beyond time.
So this is beyond time and space.
So
we know it.
So the idea of constant or any destination is a false notion from the mind's perspective.
So life continues regardless whether we're here.
Life is a single event flowing from moment to moment.
Moment to moment, yeah. It's a
Single-
whole lifetime, every moment.
Single event.